The laws of physics collapsed immediately under the immense weight of their new bodies.
Without lungs, the atmosphere suffocated them slowly, leaving only silence in the woods.
The world became a vast cemetery overnight, before the truly adaptive creatures emerged.
Those that adapted possessed strength that made our technology irrelevant in hours. The sky itself was laced with silken traps, strong enough to catch aircraft.
The familiar hum became a deafening roar that shattered windows and eardrums. Our cities became the raw materials for their towering alien architecture. Green fields disappeared in moments, leaving a barren world behind their advance.
The darkest corners of our infrastructure were now their perfect hunting grounds. Their collective intelligence allowed them to conquer the land with disturbing efficiency.
Water sources became lethal zones, harboring nightmares beyond our imagination. The delicate vibrations of a single antenna soon give way to the overwhelming sound of the colony.
Our greatest weapons were harmless toys against their thick, natural armor plating.
They did not just destroy our world, they repurposed it for themselves.
Silence became the most terrifying indicator that they were watching and waiting. They sensed our fear before we even knew they were near us.
Industrial zones were transformed into massive production factories for their young.
One strike was absolute, removing any chance of survival in this new nightmare.
We were no longer the apex predators, merely sustenance for the swarm.
Every step they took fractured the very foundations of human civilization.
Even the slowest among them devoured our remaining food supplies in mere days.
Fires meant nothing to creatures covered in fireproof scales thick as armor.
Places of human entertainment became fortresses of stinging death and endless swarms. The ground itself betrayed us, swallowing those who dared to walk above.
Flora mutated violently to accommodate the impossible size of their new pollinators. There was no running from predators that could clear buildings in a single bound. Beautiful garden creatures became apex predators, hunting in the overgrown urban jungles. Monuments of our history were casually crushed under 1,000 relentless legs. The only light left in the tunnels was a beacon of certain doom. Our safest hiding spots were transformed into dark burrows of inescapable nightmares.
Flooded avenues became feeding grounds, where surface tension meant sudden death.
Their collective song vibrated through concrete, turning buildings to dust.
Even the plants grew monstrous, feeding the parasites that destroyed our homes.
They cleared our remnants, pushing the ruins of civilization into rotting piles.
Desperate for sustenance, they drained our infrastructure of every precious drop.
Everything we made was food to the endless swarm, stripping the world bare. Their very presence dissolved the earth, turning our roads into toxic sludge.
The sky vanished behind a living cloud of pain, and absolute terror.
Knowledge meant nothing to creatures driven entirely by raw, predatory instinct.
Entire neighborhoods vanished under the crushing weight of their endless march. Steel transit lines became twisted metal traps for the heavy armored kings. They thrived on our poisons, turning toxic waste into twisted sustenance.
The only illumination on the roads now signaled a swift, terrifying end. They rebuilt our skyline with mud and saliva, asserting absolute dominance. No fortress could withstand the relentless pressure of their monstrous biology.
Our homes were silently transformed into cold pantries for the hungry swarm. They simply walked out of the ashes of our most devastating weapons. Human history was consumed and digested into mindless, terrifying hive architecture. The great ancient forests were stripped bare by an endless, creeping hunger.
They learned to hunt anything that possessed a beating, warm mammalian heart. The shattered remnants of our lives were rolled into rotting spheres.
The cracked earth opened up, dragging our structures into suffocating sandy moors. They hovered silently, studying our failed human defenses with cold alien intelligence. The drowned, flooded ruins became a hunting ground for unseen aquatic terrors.
Our greatest global food reserves vanished into the endless void of stomachs.
They mercilessly hollowed out our greatest architectural achievements from the inside out. Human wealth and security were dissolved into meaningless puddles of toxic sludge. The deafening sonic boom of a cricket's call shattered human hearing instantly forever.
Social insects repurposed our concrete and steel cities into towering new alien colonies.
These became unbeatable aerial combat platforms with horrifying speed and unmatched maneuverability.
The relentless, creeping famine followed swarms that stripped all vegetation from the earth. We were no longer the apex predator, merely sustenance waiting in the dark. Predators the size of buses waited patiently in absolute silence for human prey. Whole communities were silently wrapped and stored in massive silken larder houses. Our most dangerous technology meant nothing to creatures adapted to extreme conditions.
They reorganized the surface of the world to suit their strange collective needs. Nothing was safe from their hunger, not even the steel walls of warships.
Military resistance collapsed instantly against armor thicker than any tank plating. Their alien gaze watched over the remnants of human civilization with cold indifference. Even winter provided only temporary relief, frozen giants waiting for the thaw. The dark places beneath our feet became their perfect and absolute hunting grounds. Our history was casually dismantled and carried away as raw nesting material. They consumed the very ground, turning once green fields into toxic wastelands.
Our legacy is merely the dust they use to build their towering nests. One sudden sting was absolute, removing all hope of survival in this nightmare.
They studied our failures with an eerie collective and hive intelligence. The era of humanity has ended. A dark silence has truly fallen everywhere.